Hello everyone, and welcome to our video. Today we will look at some sample responses to the TOEFL speaking exam, and then we will review the answers. So get ready and let's get started.
I don't agree with this at all because people need private cars to get around, even at times when public transport is operating. Most trains and buses only operate at certain times, and even then, they aren't always reliable. For instance, I used to work in the warehouse, and I started work at 2 a.m. in the morning, when no trains are running. Without a car, I wouldn't have been able to get to work. Also, in many cities, local governments make money by charging for parking and for entering high congestion zones. If private cars were banned in the city, this would be a big loss in revenue.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our video. My name is John, and I'm so happy to be here with you. And today, we're going to review sample answers together and talk about the points that make it a good answer. When the TOEFL raters grade an answer, they use 3 points, namely topic development, language use, and your delivery. Let's look at this answer based on the topic development. First of all, notice that Fred clearly states his opinion. He clearly states that he does not agree with the statement. He then goes on to clearly explain his reasons for disagreeing. First, he points out that cars provide convenience, especially if you have to travel into the city at unsociable hours. And secondly, he points out the negative impact it could have on revenue for local governments. Notice that he gives a personal example to further support his point of view. And when explaining his second point, he makes sure to give sufficient details so that we can fully understand the idea. The answer is also well structured, so it's easy for you to follow his train of thought. Next, let's talk a little bit about language use, which is made up 2 parts: grammar and vocabulary. His grammar is very good and consistent. For instance, he uses the phrases used to describe a thing that he did regularly in the past, and also uses the phrase wouldn't have been. Wouldn't have been to describe an alternative past different from what actually happened. His vocabulary is also very good, as he makes use of words and phrases that are suitable for the topic. For example, he uses the word big loss and revenue when talking about local government income. And he also uses good qualifications like the word run, which is the verb that goes with the noun trains. His delivery is pretty good because he speaks clearly and very clearly. And he also talks at a natural pace, which is very important. He doesn't have to pause to try to think of the right word to use. This is one of the things that many test takers struggle with. So you might want to work on your delivery and focus on clarity and good pacing. Take this into account. This is going to help you tremendously.
The university has plans to start a tutoring program in the autumn to help first-year students by giving them academic support and the opportunity to interact with the tutor taking the same major as them. The women in the listening believe this idea is great because it will make the freshman year easier for the new students. Apart from helping them with study material, they can also learn many useful tips and suggestions, for example, how to prep for exams and how to take notes during lectures. She also mentions the fact that by being able to speak to tutors in their major, new students can find out useful information, such as the best lecturers in their major, the most helpful advisors, and what classes they should enroll in. All of this will go a long way to making the first year of success.
Hello. So, once again, let's use these 3 points to examine this answer. We'll start with the topic development. This is slightly different for integrated questions. Your answer needs to accurately report the information in the reading and the listening, and also include all of the relevant information. Did he do this? Well, he clearly identifies the change and the reasons that the change is happening, and accurately links this to the opinion of the woman in the listening. He's able to clearly explain the woman's point of view, highlighting both her points and provides sufficient details to get a clear understanding of her opinion. She points out the skills that new students can learn from the new program, and also the useful information they can get by speaking to a tutor. So, overall, we can say he has done a pretty good job. He also does a good job with language use. For instance, he's able to use phrases like apart from to demonstrate that there are additional benefits to the program aside from what has already been mentioned. He also makes good use of superlative adverbs such as best and most. He does an amazing and good job with vocabulary by paraphrasing a number of words from the reading and listening. For instance, he uses the word freshman to describe a first-year student, and he also uses the word prep as a substitute for preparation. Again, his delivery is wonderful, as he is easy to understand, and he speaks at an amazing pace that is very easy to follow. So, take these things into account because they are going to help you tremendously.
The familiarity principle refers to when a person is given a choice between two similar items, they tend to choose the item they are familiar with, even if they do not recall ever coming across the item before. The professor demonstrated how this works using the example of an experiment conducted using a group of students who were shown various shapes. In the first part of the experiment, they were shown these distinct shapes for a brief second in very poor lighting, so they couldn't see the shapes very well. In the next part of the experiment, the students were again shown shapes, but this time they were in pairs and they were shown for a longer period of time. In each of these pairs of shape, one of them had been shown to the students earlier in the poor lighting, while the other was a new shape. At the end of the experiment, the students were asked to pick the shape that they liked more, and they would usually pick the shape that they had seen before in the poor lighting, even though they didn't recall.
Here we have another good response. His topic development is very good because you can clearly follow each of the steps described in the experiment and understand how they connect to the idea of the familiarity principle. All the relevant information is included. The different shapes, how long they were shown for, and lighting conditions. So, anyone listening can understand the concept that this is being demonstrated in the experiment. Under language use, his grammar is very good, and it is consistent, especially since the experiment took place entirely in the past. His vocabulary is also very good. He is able to simplify complex ideas into basic English so it is easy to understand. This is always a good idea. Don't use big words for the sake of using big words. Clarity is more important. Finally, his delivery was on point and there were no issues understanding the ideas he expressed, and he was able to sustain his speech for the whole 60 minutes.
The lecture discusses 2 ways in which some frogs are able to survive in dry environments. One way to do this is by reducing water loss. Some frogs are able to create a protective layer over their skin that keeps water trapped in. An example of this is a particular frog that secretes a waxy substance that it rubs all over its skin with its hands and feet. This forms a virtually watertight barrier which helps to reduce the amount of moisture they lose in a dry climate. A second feature that some frogs use is a specialized organ inside their bodies meant to store large amounts of water for long periods of time. An example of this is a particular fault that has a bladder that is able to expand to contain large volumes of water. They store this water to use during periods of drought, which means the frog is able to survive until the next time it rains.
All right, so we have looked at the answer. Now let's take a look at this answer together. Notice how he doesn't waste too much time by simply rephrasing the question and getting straight into the content of the lecture. This is something that I would suggest that's a good approach. Don't waste too much time at the beginning. Only devote around 10 seconds to paraphrasing the question, and then quickly move on to discuss the 2 points from the lecture. He's able to express clearly the 2 different ways in which frogs protect themselves in dry climates, and then he's also able to recall and explain clearly the 2 examples that demonstrate the ability of the frogs. He clearly connects the biological adaptations to how frogs are able to survive in dry climates. Based on this, we can say his topic development is very well put out. Language use is also very good, as there are no grammatical errors. His vocabulary is also very good, and he is able to use words that are related to the subject matter. For instance, he uses words like volume to describe the amount of water, drought to describe the lack of rain, and watertight to describe the ability to conserve water. Again, his delivery is on point. He has a very good pronunciation, and his intonation is also quite good. Although there is room for improvement, more inflection in his voice could help him sound more natural. Nevertheless, this is a good answer overall. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. And if it was helpful, don't forget to share it, like it, and subscribe to our channel, because this enables us to continue to give you free content. And don't forget to leave a comment down below, right? So, see you next time and have an amazing day.